I woke up at 5:30 a.m., careful not to disturb Olivia as I slipped out of bed. She mumbled something in her sleep, her auburn hair splayed across the Egyptian cotton pillowcase I'd paid a ridiculous amount for because she said it was essential for proper skincare. I watched her for a moment, peaceful, beautiful, completely unaware that in a few hours, her carefully constructed world would collapse around her, and mine along with it. Let me back up. I'm Tom Mercer. At 37, I was one of Wall Street's most respected risk analysts, not the kind of guy who makes headlines or gets his face on CNBC, but someone the big players consulted when millions were on the line. They called me the calculator behind my back. Some meant it as an insult, but I took it as a badge of honor. In a world of testosterone-fueled gamblers chasing quick returns, I was the guy who understood the actual mathematics behind the madness. My corner office at Morgan Stanley offered a view of Manhattan that still impressed me even after 15 years in the city. That morning, I watched the sunrise paint the skyscrapers gold while I sipped the first of what would be many coffees. My assistant wouldn't arrive for another 2 hours, and I savored these quiet moments to review overnight market movements from Asian exchanges without interruption. That was my routine. Orderly, predictable, profitable. I'd built my reputation on avoiding unnecessary risks, on identifying patterns others missed, on protecting assets rather than gambling them away on hunches. My clients slept well at night because I didn't, until Olivia Reynolds crashed into my life, turning everything upside down. We met at the Met Gala 3 years ago. I was there representing several clients who donated substantial sums to the museum. Olivia was working. Her PR agency handled crisis management for celebrities and executives who found themselves in compromising situations. And there were always plenty of those. She stood out immediately. Not just because of her looks, though she was stunning with her emerald eyes and perfectly styled hair. It was her energy, electric, unstoppable, captivating. While I calculated risks, Olivia charged headfirst into chaos and somehow emerged victorious. "You're Tom Mercer," she'd said, appearing beside me as I studied a modern art installation I didn't understand but pretended to appreciate. "The man who predicted the microburst in tech stocks last quarter." I was surprised she knew that. Most people at these events discussed fashion and gossip, not market fluctuations. It wasn't a prediction, it was probability. Call it what you want. She smiled, taking a sip of champagne. "But when everyone else was buying, you told your clients to sell. 3 weeks later, they were thanking you while others were jumping from metaphorical windows." She extended her hand. "Olivia Reynolds, Reynolds Communications." Her handshake was firm, confident. "The firm that saved Jeffrey Williams after his indiscretion in Vegas?" I asked, referring to a scandal involving a married tech CEO that had mysteriously disappeared from headlines after 3 days of intense coverage. Her smile widened. "We prefer to think of it as reputation management. But yes, that was one of mine." "Impressive damage control," I admitted. "I could say the same about your work. Different battlefield, similar strategies. We both excel at minimizing losses in high-stakes situations." Something sparked between us that night, recognition perhaps of complementary skills. She was chaos in a designer dress. I was order in a tailored suit. Together we made a formidable pair. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 6 months, she had moved into my Upper East Side apartment. By our first anniversary, we were engaged. I had finally found someone who balanced me, or so I thought. The warning signs were there from the beginning. Olivia lived extravagantly. Her closet looked like a boutique on Fifth Avenue. She redecorated my apartment, our apartment, spending thousands on furniture imported from Italy. At first, I found her taste for luxury endearing. I made enough money to support us both comfortably, and seeing her happy made me happy. But soon it wasn't enough. "Tom, baby, have you seen these projections for Neurotech?" she asked one evening, 6 months into our engagement. She'd slid her tablet across the dinner table, showing me a startup's ambitious growth chart. I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. "I've heard of them," I said cautiously. "They're promising a lot with very little proof of concept." She rolled her eyes, a gesture I'd grown accustomed to whenever I expressed caution. "This is exactly the kind of opportunity you always miss. Jack Palmer invested last quarter, and he's already seeing a 30% return. Jack Palmer was Olivia's ex from college, who had struck gold with a few lucky investments and never let anyone forget it. She brought him up whenever she wanted to push me toward riskier ventures. Jack Palmer got lucky, I said, pushing the tablet back toward her. For every Jack, there are 100 guys who lost everything on sure things. We have the money to take chances, Tom. She leaned forward, her voice dropping to that persuasive tone she used with difficult clients. What's the point of all your success if we don't enjoy it? If we don't grow it? You're so brilliant with numbers, but sometimes I think you forget the human element. Life isn't just about minimizing risk. It's about seizing opportunities. I seize plenty of opportunities, I countered. I just make sure they're actual opportunities and not fancy sales pitches dressed up in Silicon Valley jargon. She sighed dramatically. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone who gets as excited about possibilities as I do. Someone who isn't afraid to leap without triple-checking the safety net. That hurt, as she knew it would. Is that what you think? That I'm afraid? No, baby, of course not. She quickly backtracked, reaching across to squeeze my hand. I just think you're so focused on what might go wrong that sometimes you miss what could go right. We balance each other, remember? You keep me grounded, and I help you soar a little. That's why we work. I nodded, mollified but not convinced. These conversations became more frequent as our wedding date approached. Olivia pushing, me resisting. I tried explaining the difference between calculated risks and reckless gambles. She called me boring, too cautious, afraid of life. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's why I missed the signs. That fateful morning, after my usual pre-dawn routine, I noticed an anomaly in one of my secondary investment accounts while reviewing overnight alerts. A series of transactions I didn't recognize. Nothing massive, just unusual enough to trigger my attention. Most people would have dismissed it as a glitch or a forgotten trade. But details don't escape me. Numbers don't lie. I dug deeper. What I found turned my stomach. Someone had been accessing my professional credentials to execute trades. Not just any trades, but perfectly timed shorts on companies just before negative news broke. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. And the beneficiary account belonged to a Ryan Matthews, a name I didn't recognize. I spent the next 3 hours following the digital trail. It led me to email exchanges between my fiancé and this Ryan, discussing not just their affair, but how to use my market access to make real money. They'd been skimming from my accounts too, small amounts over time, thinking I wouldn't notice among my larger holdings. But I always noticed numbers. Always. There was a particularly damning exchange from 2 months ago. Ryan, how much longer do we need to keep playing it safe? These small trades aren't going to get us where we need to be. Olivia, patience, baby. Tom doesn't suspect anything. He's too busy with his precious risk analyses to notice what's happening right under his nose. We need to be smart about this. Ryan, your boring fiancé is sitting on a gold mine and doesn't even know it. With your client information and his access, we could be set for life in 6 months. Olivia, and we will be. Trust me. Tom trusts me completely. He gave me all his passwords because relationships are built on trust. Can you believe that shit? Just stick to the plan. I'll handle Tom. The messages continued, becoming increasingly explicit about both their relationship and their financial schemes. They'd been using insider information from Olivia's PR clients to make trades through my accounts. It wasn't just betrayal, it was illegal, and my name was all over it. I sat there for hours compiling evidence, following the digital trail of their betrayal. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. Not for someone like me who understands patterns, who sees the stories numbers tell when arranged in sequence. I printed key documents, saved copies to encrypted drives, and then systematically erased all traces of my investigation from my work computer. My mind was racing, but my hands were steady. Years of managing crises for clients had taught me the value of methodical action over emotional reaction. When Olivia came home that evening, I didn't confront her. I didn't throw her clothes onto the street or change the locks while screaming obscenities. That's what she would have expected, an emotional outburst she could manipulate and eventually control. Instead, I smiled, kissed her cheek, asked about her day while mine burned to ashes around me. "You seem distracted," she said over dinner, studying my face as I pushed pasta around my plate. "Just work," I replied, forcing another forkful I couldn't taste. "Big client meeting tomorrow." "Anything interesting?" I looked at her then, really looked, searching for any sign of guilt, any crack in her performance. There was nothing, just perfect, practiced charm. I wondered how many times she'd lied to my face with that same easy smile. "Nothing you'd find exciting?" I said, and she laughed, agreeing that my work bored her to tears. She poured more wine, talking animatedly about a new client her agency had landed. A tech billionaire with complicated personal issues that needed managing before his company's IPO. I nodded in all the right places, asked appropriate questions, played the role of the attentive fiancé, while inside I was calculating exactly how to dismantle my life and rebuild it without her. "I might need to fly to San Francisco next week," she said, reaching for my hand across the table. "Roger's situation is getting messier. His ex is threatening to go public with some compromising material." "Of course," I said smoothly. "Whatever your client needs." She looked relieved. "You're the best, baby." So understanding about my crazy schedule. She kissed my knuckles. "That's why I love you." I wondered if she was actually going to San Francisco or meeting Ryan somewhere. I wondered if any part of the last 3 years had been real. I wondered when exactly I had become such a fool. That night, as she slept beside me, I began planning my exit. Not just from our relationship, but from my entire life as Tom Mercer, Wall Street analyst. The man who trusted when he should have verified. The calculator who missed the most important equation of all, that love without loyalty is just another form of transaction. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved methodically. First, securing the evidence of their financial misconduct, emails, transaction records, account statements, encrypting everything, and storing it in multiple secure locations. Then quietly transferring my legitimate assets to new accounts under a holding company I'd established years ago as a contingency plan. I didn't clear out our joint accounts completely. That would have alerted her. Instead, I left enough to maintain the illusion that nothing had changed. I reached out to an old college friend, James Turner, who'd left New York for Denver years ago. James ran a financial consulting firm for small businesses and had always tried to recruit me. "The mountains clear your head," he told me repeatedly. "You can actually think out here without the city noise scrambling your brain." Maybe he was right. Maybe clarity was exactly what I needed. "Tom Mercer," James answered on the second ring, surprise evident in his voice. "To what do I owe this honor? Don't tell me you're finally tired of Manhattan's concrete jungle?" "Something like that," I said carefully. "How's business out west?" "Booming. These small business owners need more help than the Wall Street fat cats, and they're a hell of a lot more grateful for it." "Why? You finally considering my offer?" I hesitated only briefly. "What if I was?" There was a pause on the line. "Tom, is everything okay? You've been turning me down for a decade. Why the sudden interest?" "Let's just say I'm ready for a change of scenery, some fresh air, a new perspective. And what does the lovely Olivia think about trading New York for Denver?" I swallowed hard. "She doesn't know yet, and I'd appreciate if we could keep this conversation between us for now." Another pause, longer this time. James and I had known each other since freshman year at Princeton. He could read between the lines. "My guest room is yours for as long as you need it," he said finally. "No questions asked." "When should I expect you?" 2 weeks, I said, relief washing over me. "And James?" "Thank you. What are friends for? Besides, I've been telling you for years that you're wasting your talent making rich assholes richer. About time you listened. I resigned from my position at Morgan Stanley, citing family health concerns that required relocation. My boss was disappointed but understanding. I'd made the firm millions over the years. They offered me a generous severance package and the possibility of consulting work in the future. "Is there anything we can do?" my boss asked. "Some arrangement that would allow you to stay with the firm?" "You're one of our most valuable assets, Tom." I shook my head. "I appreciate the offer, but this is something I need to do." "Family comes first." He nodded solemnly. "Of course." Just know there's always a place for you here if circumstances change. The hardest part was maintaining normalcy with Olivia. Every kiss felt like acid on my lips. Every "I love you," like a knife between my ribs. I watched her check her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, smiling at messages I knew weren't from clients or friends. 3 days before my planned departure, Olivia announced she needed to fly to Los Angeles for an emergency client situation. Some actor caught with the wrong person in the wrong hotel, she explained, packing an overnight bag. The usual career-ending stupidity that pays our bills. I nodded sympathetically, helped her pack, even called the car service to take her to the airport. As soon as she was gone, I accelerated my timeline. Within 24 hours, I'd cleared out everything I wanted from the apartment, shipping most of it to a storage facility in Denver. I left my engagement ring on the nightstand with a note that contained just 3 words: "I know everything." Then I disappeared. The first few weeks in Denver were a blur. James set me up with a small apartment downtown and brought me into his firm as a partner. The work was different, smaller scale, more personal. Instead of managing billion-dollar portfolios, I was helping family businesses secure loans and plan for succession. I started teaching financial literacy courses at community centers, showing people how to escape debt and build security. "You're a natural teacher," James commented after observing one of my classes. "These people are actually understanding compound interest. That's practically a miracle." I shrugged but felt a satisfaction I rarely experienced on Wall Street. They just need someone to explain it without the jargon and intimidation tactics. "Speaking of explaining things," James hesitated, "don't you think you should call Olivia? Just to officially end things?" The not knowing must be killing her. I stared at him, surprised by the surge of anger I felt. "Trust me, she knows exactly why I left." "Still, man, 3 years together, an engagement. Don't you think you owe her at least a conversation?" What I owed her was trust. What she gave me in return was betrayal. I closed my laptop with more force than necessary. "She's been calling you, hasn't she?" James had the grace to look embarrassed. "She found my number somehow. Called the office yesterday." "And what did you tell her?" "Nothing," he assured me, "just that I hadn't heard from you." "But Tom, she was crying, said there'd been a terrible misunderstanding." I laughed bitterly. "A misunderstanding? Is that what she's calling it?" "Let me guess. She has no idea why I would suddenly disappear. She's worried sick. She just wants to make sure I'm okay." James nodded slowly. "Something like that, yeah. Well, she's lying. Again, she knows exactly why I left." I pulled out my phone, scrolled to a saved screenshot, and handed it to James. "Read this. Tell me if it looks like a misunderstanding to you." His eyes widened as he read the exchange between Olivia and Ryan about using my credentials for their trading scheme. "Holy shit, Tom. This is criminal?" "Yeah, I know. And that's just one message. I have hundreds more. Detailed plans for using my accounts, my reputation, my access. They've been doing this for months." James handed the phone back, his expression somber. "I had no idea." "I'm sorry, man. I shouldn't have pushed." "It's fine," I said, though it wasn't. Nothing was fine. "Just don't tell her where I am. Ever. I need to start over without her poison in my life." "Understood. Not a word." He hesitated. "But what about the legal side? Shouldn't you report this to someone? If they were using your credentials?" "I've taken care of it," I interrupted. "The evidence is secure. If she or her boyfriend try to implicate me, I'll use it. But for now, I just want distance. Complete and total separation from that life." James nodded, though I could tell he wasn't entirely convinced. "Your call. Just know I've got your back, whatever you decide." I changed my appearance, grew a beard, started wearing contacts instead of my usual glasses, hit the gym regularly to shed my desk jockey physique. Nothing dramatic enough to look like I was hiding, just enough to create distance from my former self. I went by Thomas Reynolds now, taking Olivia's surname as a bitter reminder never to be so careless again. I didn't check on Olivia, didn't Google her name or scroll through her social media. The temptation was there, especially in those first dark months, but I resisted. Looking back would only keep me tethered to a life I was determined to leave behind. But I did monitor the accounts she and Ryan had used for their scheme. Before leaving New York, I'd installed discrete monitoring software that forwarded all account activities and even their email exchanges to a secure server. It was my insurance policy, gathering evidence in case they ever tried to come after me. As I expected, they continued their pattern, growing bolder with each transaction. Without my risk management holding them back, they made increasingly dangerous moves, chasing bigger returns to maintain Olivia's lifestyle and fund whatever future they imagined together. For a while, they got lucky. The market was bullish, lifting even their poorest decisions to modest gains. I watched from a distance, knowing that eventually, probability would catch up to them. Risk always collects its due. I was right. 14 months after I left New York, the market corrected. Not a crash, but a significant adjustment that exposed the weakness in their strategy. They'd leveraged everything on a tech bubble that burst spectacularly when Chinese manufacturing restrictions impacted supply chains. Within weeks, they lost 60% of their holdings. Desperate to recover, they doubled down. Classic gambler's fallacy. Ryan convinced Olivia to invest in a guaranteed opportunity that had all the hallmarks of a Ponzi scheme. I recognized the pattern immediately when I saw the transfers. They weren't just going to lose their investment, they were going to lose everything. I should have felt satisfaction. This was justice, natural consequences for their actions. Instead, I felt hollow. Their downfall wouldn't undo my pain or restore my trust in people. So I continued building my new life. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. Made friends who knew nothing of Tom Mercer or Wall Street or beautiful women who orchestrated betrayals. I found peace in the mountain air, just as James had promised. Started hiking on weekends, bought a dog, a loyal German shepherd I named Digit. Over time, my friendship with Sarah, a pediatrician I met at one of my financial literacy workshops, grew into something more. What started as coffee after her shift turned into dinner dates, then weekend hikes with Digit, and eventually nights spent talking until dawn. She was different from anyone I'd dated before. Straightforward where Olivia had been calculating, genuine where Olivia had been performative. With Sarah, what you saw was what you got. No hidden agendas, no manipulation, just honest connection. "You're guarded," she observed one night, 6 months into our relationship. "I can almost see the wall come up sometimes when we talk about certain topics." I couldn't deny it. Old habits from a previous life. Does this previous life have a name? I hesitated, then nodded. Olivia. Sarah didn't push, just squeezed my hand. "Whenever you're ready to tell me about her, I'm here." No rush, that was Sarah. Patient, understanding, but never a pushover. She had her own boundaries, her own strength. Maybe that's why I found myself falling for her in a way that felt different, more grounded, more real. By the time another year had passed, we were practically living together, splitting time between her house and my apartment. The night I asked her to marry me wasn't planned or dramatic, just a quiet evening on her back porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of amber and gold. "I want this to be my view for the rest of my life," I said, "with you beside me." She understood immediately, turning to me with those clear, direct eyes. "Is that a proposal, Thomas Reynolds?" "Yes," I said simply. "It is." Her smile was all the answer I needed. I was healing, moving forward, until she found me. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was finishing up with a client when my assistant knocked on the door. "There's a woman here insisting on seeing you," she said, her expression confused. "She says her name is Olivia Reynolds and that she's your fiancée." The world tilted slightly on its axis. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Give me 5 minutes to finish here," I said calmly. "Then show her in." My client, a restaurant owner looking to expand to a second location, noticed my change in demeanor. "Everything okay, Thomas?" I forced a smile. "Just an unexpected visitor from my past. Nothing to worry about." After she left, I stood at the window, looking out at the Denver skyline. Not as impressive as New York's, but it had become home. I wondered briefly how Olivia had found me, then recalled the Christmas card I had sent to my former assistant at Morgan Stanley last month, the one where I'd stupidly used my real return address instead of a P.O. box. Olivia and my assistant had always been friendly. That must have been how she tracked me down. It was a careless mistake, one that proved I was still adjusting to life under the radar. When the door opened, I turned, prepared for anything except the woman who stood before me. This wasn't the polished, confident Olivia I remembered. Her clothes were still expensive but worn at the edges. Her hair lacked its usual perfect styling, but it was her eyes that shocked me most. The calculation in them had been replaced by desperation. "You're a difficult man to find, Tom," she said, attempting her old confident smile and failing. "That was the point." My voice was steadier than I expected. "Please sit down." She did, crossing her legs in that familiar way that once made my heart race. Now I felt nothing but a clinical curiosity. "You look good," she said, glancing around my office. "Denver agrees with you." "What do you want, Olivia?" She flinched at my directness, then straightened her shoulders. "I think that should be obvious. I want what's mine." I laughed then, genuinely amused. "And what exactly would that be?" "Half of everything." Her voice hardened. "We were engaged, Tom. We built a life together. You can't just disappear with all our assets and expect me to walk away." "Our assets?" I leaned forward. "You mean the ones you hadn't already siphoned off to fund your affair with Ryan? Or the ones you hadn't gambled away on insider trading schemes?" Her face paled slightly. She hadn't expected me to know the details. "That's not—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Don't insult us both by lying now. I know everything, Olivia. Every transaction, every message between you and Ryan, every plan you made while sleeping in my bed." She swallowed hard, recalculating her approach. Olivia always had a backup strategy. "Fine," she said after a moment. "So we both made mistakes. But if you go public with what you think you know, I'll take you down with me. Your credentials were used for those trades, not mine. The SEC won't care that I had your passwords. They'll see your name, your accounts." There it was. The threat I'd been expecting since she walked in. "Is Ryan waiting somewhere nearby?" I asked, changing the subject. "Or did he send you to do his dirty work alone?" A flash of pain crossed her face before she could hide it. "Interesting." "Ryan isn't in the picture anymore," she said tightly. "Let me guess. When the money dried up, so did his affection." She stood abruptly, pacing the office. "You don't understand. We're ruined, Tom. The agency is bankrupt. I've got creditors calling day and night. That last investment—" "The Ponzi scheme?" I interrupted. "Yes, I saw that too." "Not your brightest moment." She stopped, staring at me. "You've been watching our accounts?" "All this time. I've been protecting myself," I corrected, "gathering evidence, which incidentally clearly shows that you and Ryan were the ones conducting unauthorized trades, not me." "But you left money in our joint accounts," she said, confusion evident in her voice. "I thought—" "That was before you and Ryan leveraged those accounts to the hilt for your bigger plays," I explained coldly. "You took what I left and gambled it away, along with everything else you had." I opened my desk drawer and removed a thumb drive, placing it between us. "Everything is here. Emails where you share my passwords with Ryan, messages planning specific trades using information from your PR clients, which, by the way, is textbook insider trading, bank transfers to accounts in both your names." She looked at the small device as if it might bite her. "You're bluffing," she whispered, but I could see she didn't believe it. I shrugged. "The SEC would be very interested in this evidence. So would the clients you betrayed by using their confidential information for personal gain?" "What do you want?" Her voice was barely audible now. "Originally, nothing. I was content to let you self-destruct naturally. But since you've brought the fight to my door," I leaned back in my chair, "I want you to disappear from my life. Permanently. No contact, no claims, no sudden appearances in my office threatening me with exposure that would hurt you far more than it would hurt me. And if I refuse—" I picked up the thumb drive and held it out to her. "Take it. Look at what I have. Then decide if you want to test me." Her hand trembled slightly as she took it. "I need money, Tom. I've got nothing left." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "That's not my problem," I said quietly. "You had everything, Olivia. My trust, my love, my future. You traded it all for quick money and cheap thrills? Now you're experiencing the consequences of those choices. She stared at me, eyes suddenly bright with unshed tears. I did love you, you know. In my way. Your way wasn't enough. I stood, indicating our meeting was over. You have 48 hours to review the evidence and make your decision. After that, I'll assume you've chosen to fight, and I'll proceed accordingly. And if I agree to your terms, what then? Then you walk away with the clothes on your back and the knowledge that I won't destroy what remains of your life, which is more mercy than you showed me. She nodded slowly, clutching the thumb drive like a lifeline. I'll need more time. 48 hours, I repeated firmly. I've arranged a hotel room for you. I handed her a key card. Your flight back to New York leaves Thursday evening. I've paid for both. You knew I'd come, she said, realization dawning. You've been waiting for this. I calculated the probability, I corrected her. It's what I do best, remember? After she left, I sat alone in my office as darkness fell over the city. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt a strange sense of closure, like the final page of a book I'd been unable to put down, despite knowing the ending would disappoint. James found me there an hour later, 2 whiskeys in hand. That was her? He asked, setting one glass in front of me. I nodded, taking a grateful sip. You okay? I considered the question carefully. I think I will be. Want to talk about it? Not particularly. I smiled, slightly. But thanks for the drink. He raised his glass in a silent toast. For what it's worth, the Tom Mercer I knew in college would have forgiven her, taken her back, and spent the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. I like Thomas Reynolds a lot better. I laughed softly. So do I. The next day, Olivia was waiting outside my apartment building when I got home from work. She looked even more disheveled than she had in my office. Her eyes red-rimmed from crying or lack of sleep, possibly both. We need to talk, she said, pushing away from the wall she'd been leaning against. I sighed, glancing around the street. I thought I made myself clear yesterday. You did, but I have information you don't have. I doubt that. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Ryan's not just out of my life, Tom. He's working with the SEC, voluntary disclosure in exchange for immunity. That got my attention. When? Last month, after everything fell apart. She laughed bitterly. Turns out he was recording our conversations, planning his exit strategy, even while he was convincing me to invest in that damn fund. I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. Why are you telling me this? Because despite what you think, I'm not completely heartless. She hugged herself against the evening chill. And because I need your help. That's not going to happen. Just listen, please. There was genuine fear in her eyes now. Ryan doesn't just have evidence against me. He has documents with your signature on them, authorization forms for some of the bigger trades. I don't know how he got them, but they look real. They're forgeries, I said immediately. Maybe, but they're good ones. And combined with the fact that the trades came from your accounts, using your credentials, I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. So you came here to warn me? Out of the goodness of your heart? I came here because we're both screwed unless we work together. She stepped closer, lowering her voice even though there was no one nearby. I know people, Tom. People who can help us both disappear. Really disappear. New identities, new lives, somewhere the SEC can't find us. I stared at her, incredulous. You want me to go on the run with you? After everything you've done? I want us both to survive this, she insisted. Ryan's out for blood. Mine and yours. He's painting himself as the naive victim who got pulled into our scheme. Our scheme, I repeated. Interesting revision of history. It doesn't matter what really happened. Her voice rose in frustration. What matters is what the SEC believes. And right now they're building a case against both of us. I considered her words, my mind racing through possibilities and probabilities. Come upstairs, I said finally. I need to see exactly what we're dealing with. My apartment was sparsely furnished, just the essentials. I hadn't bothered decorating since I wasn't sure how long I'd stay in Denver. Now I was glad for the lack of personal touches as I watched Olivia survey the space. Nice place, she said, her tone suggesting the opposite. It serves its purpose. I went to the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, and handed her one. Now show me what you have. She pulled a folder from her bag and spread the contents on my coffee table. There were indeed documents with what appeared to be my signature authorizing several large trades, the same trades I discovered when I first unraveled their scheme. These are good forgeries, I admitted after examining them carefully, but they're still forgeries. Can you prove that? Because Ryan's telling a very convincing story about how we planned this together. You, me, and him. How you got cold feet and bailed, leaving us holding the bag. I laughed humorlessly. And they're believing this? A junior trader and a PR executive somehow manipulated a senior risk analyst with 15 years of spotless reputation? People believe what fits their narrative, she said simply. And right now the narrative is that we're all guilty. I gathered the papers and returned them to the folder. I need to make some calls. To who? Her eyes widened in alarm. You can't go to the authorities, Tom. It's too late for that. They're already building their case. Not to the authorities, Ryan assured her. To someone who can authenticate these signatures properly. Prove their forgeries. She relaxed slightly. Then what? Then we'll discuss next steps, I said noncommittally. Where are you staying? The hotel you booked. Room 612. Go back there. Don't talk to anyone. Don't call anyone. I'll contact you tomorrow. She hesitated, clearly wanting more reassurance than I was willing to give. Tom, I am sorry, for everything. I looked at her, trying to see the woman I'd once loved enough to propose to. All I saw was a desperate stranger. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry your plan fell apart. But you're not sorry for what you did to me. She flinched as if I'd slapped her. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Olivia. Now go back to your hotel. I'll call you tomorrow. After she left, I immediately called James. I need a favor, I said when he answered. A big one. Name it, he replied without hesitation. I need you to call Roger Daniels at the SEC tonight. There was a pause. The SEC? Tom, what the hell is going on? I explained Olivia's visit and her claims about Ryan cooperating with authorities. I need to know if there's really an investigation, and if so, how far along it is. Roger and I haven't spoken in years, James said doubtfully. Not since law school. But you're still connected on LinkedIn. I checked. Just call him. Old friend to old friend. See what he knows, or what he's willing to share. James sighed heavily. I'll try. No promises. That's all I'm asking. Next, I called a forensic document examiner I'd worked with during my Wall Street days. Explained that I needed emergency analysis of potentially forged signatures. He agreed to meet me first thing in the morning. Then I reviewed all the evidence I'd gathered before leaving New York. The emails, the transaction records, the bank transfers. Everything that proved Olivia and Ryan had acted without my knowledge or consent. It was comprehensive, damning, and most importantly, genuine. I slept poorly that night, my dreams filled with faceless SEC agents and prison cells. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. It was James. You're not going to believe this, he said without preamble. Roger confirmed there is an investigation, but not into you, at least not primarily. I sat up, instantly alert. What do you mean? Ryan Matthews has been under investigation for months. Long before your exodus from New York, he's a small fish helping them catch bigger ones. And yes, he mentioned you and Olivia, but the agents working the case weren't buying his story. Your reputation works in your favor, plus the fact that you left everything behind rather than continuing the scheme. Relief washed over me. So I'm not a target? Not a primary one, no. But Roger suggested you might want to come in voluntarily, share what you know. Show you're cooperating before they have to ask. I'll think about it. My mind was already racing ahead. Thanks, James. I owe you. Damn right you do. Roger's expecting a very expensive bottle of scotch from me now. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. I'll make it 2 bottles. After showering and dressing, I called the hotel. Room 612, please. The phone rang several times before the front desk answered again. I'm sorry, sir. There's no answer from that room. Would you like to leave a message? No, thank you. I hung up, not surprised. Olivia was resourceful and flighty when cornered. I guess she was already halfway to the airport, running from a threat that wasn't as dire as she'd made it seem. I decided to continue with my plan anyway. Met with the document examiner, who confirmed what I already knew. The signatures were skillful forgeries, detectable only under expert analysis. I paid his exorbitant rush fee and took his written report. 3 days later, I walked into the Denver SEC office and asked to speak with someone about the Ryan Matthews investigation. Was shown to a small conference room where 2 agents listened as I laid out everything I knew. The unauthorized use of my credentials, the messages between Olivia and Ryan, the forged documents. We've been monitoring Mr. Matthews for quite some time, the senior agent said after I finished. His pattern of using romantic relationships to gain access to trading information has been on our radar for years. Years, I repeated, stunned. So Olivia wasn't his first. Not even close, the agent confirmed, though she appears to have been a more active participant than some of his previous partners. That stung, even after everything. The idea that Olivia hadn't even been special in Ryan's long con, just another mark who became an accomplice. We'll need formal statements, the younger agent said, sliding papers across the table, and you'll likely be called to testify if this goes to trial. Whatever you need, I agreed, picking up a pen. I just want this resolved. As I signed my statement, my real signature, I felt a weight lifting. Not the closure I'd expected to find in Denver, but perhaps something better. The truth exposed to light, examined, and recorded. I didn't hear from Olivia again for 6 weeks. Then a letter arrived at my office, postmarked from Miami. I'm sorry I ran, she'd written. Old habits die hard. You were right. I wasn't sorry for what I did, only that I got caught. But I've had time to think, and now I am truly sorry for betraying your trust. The SEC found me in Florida. I'm cooperating fully. Ryan played us both, it seems, though I was a far more willing pawn than you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I've given them everything. You shouldn't have any more trouble from this mess I created. She'd signed it simply O. No mention of money, no further threats or pleas for help, just an apology that seemed, against all odds, genuine. 2 months later, I received official notification that I had been cleared of all suspicion in the investigation. Ryan Matthews had been indicted on multiple counts of securities fraud and identity theft. Olivia had negotiated a plea deal, testimony for leniency. She would still serve time, but not the decades she might have faced otherwise. Life continued. Seasons changed. The mountains remained constant outside my window, reminding me that some things can be relied upon, even in a world of calculated risks. I found myself settling into Denver, no longer thinking of it as a temporary shelter, but as home. My work with James's firm expanded. We hired more staff, opened a second office. I continued teaching financial literacy, finding unexpected fulfillment in helping ordinary people understand and navigate systems designed to confuse them. 3 years after my disappearance from New York, I received an unexpected email from a former colleague. Attached was a news article about the indictment of several PR executives for insider trading. Olivia's name featured prominently. Despite our last communication, she'd apparently returned to her old ways, this time without my safeguards to protect her. The SEC had launched an investigation after suspicious trading patterns emerged around several high-profile corporate announcements. All clients of her struggling new PR firm. The article included a photo taken outside the courthouse. Olivia looked thin, haggard, nothing like the vibrant woman who'd once stood confidently in boardrooms and charity galas. She'd pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for testimony against bigger fish, including Ryan Matthews, who'd resurfaced as part of a larger network of financial fraudsters. I closed the article without finishing it. Her story wasn't mine anymore. Her downfall brought me no joy, no vindication, just a distant recognition that some patterns repeat themselves unless consciously broken. That weekend, as Sarah and I hiked our favorite trail with Digit bounding ahead, she asked me a question that caught me off guard. Do you ever miss your old life in New York? I considered this as we crested a hill, the valley spreading out below us in shades of green and gold. Sometimes I miss the certainty, I admitted. I was good at what I did. Respected. The rules made sense. But I smiled, taking her hand. But I was just calculating other people's risks, never taking any of my own. That's not really living, she squeezed my fingers. And now? I looked at her, this kind, brilliant woman who'd never asked for my past but accepted what pieces I'd shared. At Digit, loyally waiting a few feet ahead, at the mountains that had witnessed my transformation from Tom Mercer to Thomas Reynolds. Now I'm exactly where I should be,